Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, November 29th. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for tuning in again this week. Now I've got some breaking news on the Social Security windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset to share with all of you. But before I do that, let me first remind you that next Friday, a week from today, November 5th at 1 p.m., we will be holding our association's annual meeting that afternoon. It's a virtual meeting, as we announced in the newsletter. Unfortunately, because of the ongoing pandemic and out of an abundance of caution, we have opted to continue to postpone any in-person meetings for the foreseeable future. And this includes, unfortunately, our annual meeting, which normally would have taken place in early November. But in good conscience, we just simply can't gather together with several hundred of you in an enclosed space for a few hours right now and have the confidence that no one's going to get sick or something bad's not going to happen. So we've come too far. This has gone on for far too long. We need to be safe for a little bit longer, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that before too long we can get together in person again. Because as I've said to a number of you, and I've said on this channel, one of my favorite parts of my position and my job of working for you is our in-person meetings and being able to see you and look you in the eye and shake your hand and sit down and have a conversation together and in person. And I know that Frank Valeri and our whole team here at Mass Retirees feels exactly the same way that I do. So we are very much looking forward to, hopefully sooner rather than later, of able to get together in person again. And pay attention to your newsletter. We'll be announcing any of those types of dates or that information. As soon as we have it, we'll get it out there to all of you. But for now, we're going to do the Teletown Hall events. Friday, 1 o'clock is our next event. It's our annual meeting. We're going to have a bunch of information. We're going to expand on a lot of what we're talking about in the newsletter. I'm surely going to talk about the news I'm sharing today. And there's two ways for you to participate. One is by calling the toll-free number that's published in the newsletter. So look to any edition of our recent editions of our newsletter. The toll-free number is contained in the newsletter. You also, if we have your telephone number on file with us, you're also going to get an automated phone call from me at the time of the meeting next Friday. So at 1 o'clock, a call will come in. All you need to do is just stay on the line, answer the phone, but stay on the line, and you're going to automatically connected at no charge to you whatsoever to our meeting, and you'll be able to participate fully. So those are the two ways for you to participate. But let's jump right into this week's news. So occasionally, good things come out of the blue. Good unexpected things come out of the blue. And all of you know that we have been working for many, many years now in an attempt to either repeal or reform the windfall elimination provision, the so-called WEP, and the government pension offset, the so-called GPO laws. And in recent years, our focus has really been exclusively on reforming the WEP, because that has been the most viable vehicle, the most viable option to bring immediate relief to all of you who have had your Social Security benefit reduced, in some cases by upwards of $400 a month, and that money's gone and out the door. And it's been our focus to try to do the best we can to cut a deal to get some relief for all of you. Now, there have been other bills out there that would fully repeal the WEP and the GPO and just get rid of them altogether. And as ideal as that has been, it really hasn't been a viable option to do that. And we haven't had a viable path through both branches of Congress, through the U.S. House of Representatives and through the U.S. Senate, to get that to the president, to get it to be a done deal. And that's particularly true in the U.S. Senate, where any bill relative to Social Security needs 60 votes in order to overcome the hurdle that is the U.S. Senate filibuster. So because of that, we've really been stuck on one path and one path only, and we've been working very closely with Congressman Richard Neal from here in Massachusetts, along with his Republican counterpart from Texas, Congressman Kevin Brady, trying to strike a deal between the Republicans and the Democrats to provide some immediate relief to all of you. Well, we now have another vehicle this week that's suddenly become available. Earlier this week, on Tuesday, Connecticut Congressman John Larson, who's the chairman of the House Subcommittee on Social Security, refiled a bill that he has been working on for many years that would provide a wholesale or a major reform of the entire Social Security system. And there are a lot of provisions contained in Congressman Larson's proposal that mass retirees has openly sought and talked about for many years. One example is a change in how the Consumer Price Index is calculated for Social Security. We have long believed, along with a lot of other retiree organizations, that the current calculation of the CPI really does a disservice to retirees who are living on fixed incomes and are purchasing products in a very different manner than what the active workforce is doing. So this change to the CPI would be reflective of that, and it's a positive change. There's also additional changes to the benefit, particularly for lower wage workers, to how the COLAs are paid for and so forth. So there's a lot of good things that Congressman Larson's been working on for a while. But in the past, the major component that's of most importance to all of us, of course, was absent and missing from the bill, and that was any mention whatsoever of WEP GPO. Well, the legislation that the congressman filed earlier this week changes that. For the first time ever, he has included within his proposal the full repeal of the WEP and the GPO. And what is most important about all of this, and what changes things for us and leads us to now support this legislation, is the fact that Congressman Larson has also provided a means to pay for the repeal of the WEP GPO. In previous bills, and such as H.R. 82, which is a current full repeal bill that's pending before the House, there really is no pay-for provision within the bill. It just repeals WEP GPO and leaves how to pay for things up in the air. And that's one of the big reasons why it's going to be so difficult to pass that type of a bill. You really need to identify how it is you're going to pay for this. And as some of you, hopefully all of you know by now, Social Security operates on what's known as a pay-as-you-go basis. What that simply means is that the money that comes into Social Security from active workers, those funds are immediately used to pay for the Social Security benefits of today's retirees. That's how the program has always worked. The notion of a Social Security quote-unquote trust fund is a bit of a misnomer. There really is no trust fund. Social Security money is not set aside, it's not invested, it's not kept in some type of an individual retirement account like we would have on a personal basis. The money that comes in is used to pay today's bills, and then tomorrow's money will be used to pay for tomorrow's bills. That's how it works, it's pay as you go. So because of that, there is no funding source if we suddenly repealed WEP GPO. Under Congressman Larson's bill, his funding source would be to increase the payroll tax, the FICA tax that all of us pay. But right now, the FICA tax is restricted on the first, I believe, $146,000 or so, $142,000 of someone's income. And what that means is for people who make more money than that, they don't pay any Social Security taxes on their earnings above that limit. So what Congressman Larson has proposed is that for anyone making more than $400,000 a year, the Social Security tax would kick back in and begin again for any earnings above $400,000 a year. Now, of course, this is a controversial proposal. The Republicans, for instance, have already, I think, pretty much unanimously come out against this proposal. They believe it's a bad idea. Therefore, it is going to be very, very difficult for this piece of legislation under the current makeup of the U.S. Congress for that bill to move forward. And everybody on both sides of the aisle at this point sees that for what it is. This is really a long-term proposal. It's something that's going to take several years, maybe several congressional sessions to actually implement. It's nothing that's going to happen, unfortunately, tomorrow, as much as we would like to see it happen. And by the way, Mass Retirees is in the process of formally signing on as a supporting organization for Congressman Larson's bill, which is House H.R. 5723, that's 5723. We support this bill, fully support the bill, but we understand that it's going to take a while to move this forward. So in the meantime, we are going to completely focus our attention on Congressman Richard Neal's bill, which of course is H.R. 2337. Under H.R. 2337, we have 180 co-sponsors. This is the bill that we have been reporting on for a while. It's the bill that is reported extensively on in the most recent edition of our newsletter, The Voice. And we're going to continue to do everything we can to move that bill forward. As a matter of fact, just on Wednesday afternoon, Frank Valeri and Nancy McGovern and Tommy Bonarigo and I, our legislative team, had a very in-depth conversation and meeting with the senior staff of Congressman Neal, talked about both bills, talked about what vehicles might exist in the very near future to move forward with a compromise. They very much see things as we do, that this is going to be a multi-step process, that the most viable way to provide immediate relief to those retirees who are currently impacted by the WEP is to focus on the short-term fix that is Congressman Neal's legislation, H.R. 2337. However, we also believe that at some point a broader, full reform of Social Security is necessary. It's necessary for the country as a whole. At some point that is going to happen, and we are very thankful and want to thank Congressman Larson and Congressman Neal for the work that has gone in to make sure that WEP and GPO repeal are part of the larger conversation over the future of Social Security. This is very important. Now, we're going to do everything, as I said before, that we can to move this forward. The reason why this issue is at the stage that it's at now, in that for the first time it's part of the larger conversation about Social Security, and it's on the radar screen for both Democrats and Republicans in the U.S. Congress, is because of all the work that you have been doing. It's the phone calls, it's the emails, it's the letters, it's the personal conversations that all of you have been having with your local member of Congress that has made all of the difference in the world. And the fact that we have been very diligent about building this national coalition of bringing in all of these different retiree groups and public employee unions from all across the country, and we've been publishing the names of these organizations in the newsletter. All of those organizations have been also contacting their local members. So collectively, we have 2 million people across the country who are impacted by the WEP alone. On the GPO side, there's about another 1.3 million Americans today who are impacted by the GPO. All of the calls and the letters and the personal contact that everybody collectively is doing, that's what's making the difference. And that's why I'm confident that we're going to be able to resolve this issue for everybody. And I truly hope that it's sooner rather than later. No one is going to be happier than me to one day, hopefully soon, be able to record one of these videos and saying, look, this is what we have just passed and this is what you can look forward to, that this is happening. But for the meantime, we need to continue to put the pressure on. We can't lose faith. We're certainly not going to give up on this issue. We've come too far and we're too close to finally getting it done to get frustrated and just pull the plug and walk away. That's not going to happen regardless. So I just wanted to provide an update of where we're at. This is not what I anticipated talking about this week. But to go back to the beginning of the conversation, if you are one of our Mass Retirees members who are watching this video, and if you're available next Friday, please join with us for our annual meeting. Again, all of the information on how to do so is in your newsletter, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon. Thank you so much.